Hey YouTube, this is Woodworker Anonymous, and I'm here to show you how I built this cool mobile tool stand, tool cabinet. It can be used for any number of things actually. A little bit about my videos and my channel. I'm a major novice when it comes to videos. I use my cell phone, so when you watch my videos you won't see me using power tools hardly at all. What I do is I build it, I stop, I video it, I show you what I did, and then I build it a little bit more, then I stop, and I do that over and over. So just a fair warning, if that's not your style of video, now's your chance to get out of Dodge. If you want to see how I did this and maybe incorporate some of the ideas I used, stick around. It's a fun build, it's got some pretty cool features, and you know, let's get to it. And right now it's just as basic early construction. Putting the base together with 2x4s and 2x6s. This is going to be very beefy. Really don't want this thing to move or vibrate at all. So that's why we decided to go with this style of build rather than just like plywood cabinets, you know, pocket hold together. So basically we just have a box frame here for the top and a box frame for the bottom. And they are connected with 2x4s that are just kind of like half lapped to both of those bases and tops. Nothing too complicated here. We did square up the 2x4s, took the rounded corners off and jointed a smooth edge. Obviously we don't want this thing laying just flat on the bottom of this thing, because as this floor undulates, you know, there'll be high points and it'll create rocking spots. And every time I move the lathe, I don't have to like worry about like trying to find out how to shim it and all that stuff. So we're going to make some retractable casters, and you know, I saw a guy on YouTube. His name is Carl Holmgren. He's an older gentleman, and he had some brilliant ideas on the whole retractable caster thing. This is basically how we have two of these things, and it's nothing more than, you know, a couple of casters on a couple hinged plates. And these things are designed so that they'll go right into these cavities right here. This is probably wondering why I built that the way I did, but so this will go in here, and you push down on that and it lifts the cabinet up by ½ inch. The weight of this cabinet will make that pop right back up. So let me show you a little bit about the underneath of this thing and how it works and why it works. So like I said, I didn't want this thing resting along the whole length this way or that way, so I had to build some feet. And so I just used a small square of oak right here. It's nice and hard, and it'll withstand a lot. Then I thought, yeah, it's still a little bit larger of a surface area, but it would be nice if I had something a little bit even harder. So I had these little metal feet. It has like a nail pin on it. Yeah, so I just had a bunch of these things sitting around. I had used them for a couple different projects, and it's got like a hard plastic bushing underneath that. So basically what I did was I used a Forstner bit and just drilled this in about 3/16 of an inch and hammered that home. So this is sitting on top of the oak and nice and solid. So we got that on 3 corners, all right? And as you know, 3 points define a plane. So with just 3 feet on there, it's always going to want to sit on those 3 pieces, those 3 feet. The 4th piece we need to be able to adjust, and that's what this one is right here. This came off of an old stereo cabinet, and it's pretty robust, and it's adjustable. So once we set this, we roll this to wherever we want and set it down on the ground, it will probably rock one way or another. And so this foot will either have to be retracted in or pushed back out to find the plane that the other 3 define. And that can just be done simply with a screwdriver, a regular screwdriver right there. Now as far as the casters, we got this like retractable caster system we're going to put in there. The way they work is I put another oak cleat right here, and that is glued and screwed and tacked in there with brads as well. That actually will like be what this rests against when the whole cabinet is sitting on the casters. And when you push the middle down, it rests on another cleat right up here. So when the middle is pushed down, it's supported by the two ends and the push rod in the middle, and plenty strong enough to withstand the weight that this thing will be holding. And when the middle pop, when you release the support in the middle, that push rod is lifted, the middle will pop up, and then these tractors will retract and sit down on the feet. So that's the plan. Cut some panels out of 1/2-inch plywood that I'm using to create the walls for the drawer openings that we're going to be going through here, and also for the panels to close up the end on both sides. So we decided to go with the side style cam as opposed to the front lever with a fulcrum to push the push rod up and down. And that basically comes down to going to be standing on this side of the cart most of the time. The lathe is going to be running, you're moving up and down the stock. Theoretically, I'm not a turner yet, but I could see levers on sticking out. Anything protruding on the front of this cabinet could eventually, I could see, start jabbing you in the thigh or hip area. And that, I could see that just becoming a nuisance, and I hating myself later. Just because, you know, the only reason I thought about putting them up front was just because of the ease of walking up here and pulling up on the lever, as opposed to reaching down and turning a lever. But for the few times you're going to be moving it, that's not that big of an inconvenience, to make sure that the front of this thing is nice and flush with no obstructions. And that's the plan. So I have to build a mechanism. This is what this is. Not finished yet. So this is basically going to be, you know, where the push rod goes in between the space right here. And this will be basically the camshaft to come through here with a cam right here. And this whole thing is made to fit right in that spot right there. Okay, so the basic idea is the bottoms of these will be positioned such that when you lower this thing onto its feet, the bottoms of these will stop the caster from popping up too far. If the caster pops up too far, it will get inside of those cleats and it won't work. So some careful measurements have to be made. I'll get to that in a minute, but first I got to make the cam that's going to mount on the cam shaft. So let's get to that. Okay, so I'm about to make the cams, and basically I'm just creating a couple of discs out of oak that's appropriately sized to fit between those two posts over there. And the way this cam's going to work is I'm just going to drill a 1-inch hole that's off center. So I'll put the cam in that hole, and then as this disc rotates, it will give it a cam action. So I need to move the push rod by 1 1/8 of an inch. The way I'm doing that is I'm just moving the center of rotation of the cam by 1/2 that distance. So the distance from the center of this cam to this edge is going to be exactly 1 1/8 shorter than the distance from the center to that edge of the disc. Okay, so all I got to do now, once I've marked it out, is drill out this 1-inch hole, and then actually try to make this into a circle. I don't have a circle cutting jig, so I'm going to be using a bandsaw and a spindle sander. Okay, well, finished making the cam. Like I said, I bored that 1-inch diameter hole right here. It's 9/16 off center from the overall center of this 2 3/4 inch circle. Then I took it to the bandsaw, and I have a resaw blade on my bandsaw. It's not really good for doing scroll work, but was able to kind of get it close by nibbling off around the edges, and then I can just take it over to the spindle sander and get it up real close to that line. So it's virtually circular and good enough for these purposes. So we have our cam, we have our cam shaft, we have our push rod holder, and this is our push rod, which obviously goes right in there. And so I know I've already put this together on the other side over here. Lighting's not real good here, but got the end panel screwed on, everything installed. You can see in there the cam is on the camshaft. I'm like turn this with my hand. I don't have a lever on it yet, but you can see it lifts up. It lifts it up, and unfortunately, the way I built this thing makes it difficult for trying to actually get glue in there, and then sliding this in without getting glue on the camshaft holder. So what I did with the first one was I just put it in there, then I drilled, countersunk a hole, put a screw in, rotated it to the other side, countersunk a hole, put another screw in, and that's holding 2 screws instead of some glue. I don't know. It should be fine. If anything ever happens or I need to adjust something, I can always unscrew this end panel and come in here and undo everything that I just did. All right. What have we done? We've finished up with the levers and the cams and the push rods and everything. So this is functional now. And just to give you an idea, this is not moving, it's not budging at all. We got it like perfectly flat and level now. Then to move it, all you gotta do is turn this lever up. That lifts that side. And then I'm gonna turn this lever up. Watch this. So I just lift that lever up. So now this whole cart, very easy to move around. So the cool thing is, 125 pound limits on these casters, so 500 pound cart capacity, not even come close to that. So okay, I've done it again. I've kind of got into a frenzy of building and got ahead of myself, didn't document everything, so stopping now before we start assembling everything, just to show you what I've done. Now, only thing I've really done to this cabinet, I've added a front. That's like a face panel, and a back. Back is just one solid piece of 1/2 inch plywood. Front is 3/4, and I use pocket holes to kind of make a face frame. Although it's not going to be standard face frame, there's not going to be any overlap here. So these drawers will slide in flush with the front of this face frame. I did cut this from one continuous piece of plywood. All the drawer cutouts have been numbered and lettered, so they'll go back in, so hopefully the face grain will all match up. As far as the top, I laminated 2 pieces of OSB, 3/4 inch, and then a 3/4 inch top, which gives me this full 2 1/4 inch thickness top. Very heavy, very flat. It's all been clamped and glued, and I then trimmed it out with some leftover mahogany from a previous job, and screwed up here. I had cut 2 pieces, so each one piece would provide enough for one end and one length, and so I had 2 pieces of mahogany and put them on the chop saw and proceeded to cut 2 short pieces out of the same piece, which means I didn't have a long enough piece for the second. So had to splice it. Looks bad, but it's on the back side. Not going to see it. This will be the front of it. That's all one piece. And it's just kind of things that happen to Woodworker Anonymous all the time. All right, so the cabinet's almost done. The top's almost done. The drawers, and this is all made out of 1/2 inch like plywood. And the way I built these is I just put some rabbets, and once you get the table saw set up, so this is 1/2 inch, and you can see I got a little polyurethane glue here That stuff is nasty. Anyway, just put a little rabbet here, 1/4 inch deep, 1/4 inch wide. And once you get this all set up, you can run all the pieces through. And it makes for a very strong, locking, all 4 sides cabinet drawer that is easy to glue. There's plenty of glue surface. And on the bottom side, I just put like a, I guess it was, 1/4 inch dado stack in there, and put a rabbet all around on all these sides, 1/2 inch deep all the way around. And these things show up, but I'm going to put a false door front here. You're not going to see that. The other one's going to be on the back side of the drawer. You'll never see that. Another classic mistake. Didn't bother like laying out all the cutouts from the piece of plywood, and ended up being short on 2 drawers, so I had to splice some plywood together, but and glued up those bottom panels, so this is nice and strong. Anyway, so you got that 1/2 inch rabbet all the way around the inside. Cut these panels to fit, just a little bit of glue, drop them in, tack them with a couple brads, and we're good to go. These are really, really strong drawers, and we've progressed along to the point where we're going to start installing these drawers into the cabinet. And just kind of found an annoying mistake. So I carefully measured. I know that these drawer slides are 1/2 inch thick, so I made the drawer boxes 1 inch narrower than the actual opening. And when you check it with a tape measure, it looks like I did it right, but nevertheless, you can see we got 1 drawer slide on that side, and this one's a little too tight. So something's got to be done here, and it's either shave down the outside of the cabinet, or maybe shave down the inside of the cabinet wall. So I think the easy thing to do is to put the drawers on the table saw and just take a micro slice off both sides. Annoying, and it's also going to make this wall a little bit thinner. Could possibly have 1/2 inch screws sticking out, which can either be filed down or covered up with a piece of trim. So that's where we're at, and that's just going to make the process a little more tedious, because there are 8 drawers, and that's going to have to be done to 8 drawers. Annoying, but probably should have made these drawer boxes a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch undersized. Okay, partial update here on installing the drawers into the cabinet. Got the drawers all set, and got this half already done. They're installed. We use these drawer slides that we got off Amazon. They're really cheap. They're not the soft close or automatic close mechanism. They are ball bearing, but they have a solid detent here at the end, so that it actually gives it a very positive hold. So you can see you have to pull to release, and then when you close it, you have to push it in to lock it in. It's nice because now these drawers aren't going to vibrate loose, and if you're rolling the cabinet around or if you're running the lathe, these things are nice and secure. It's very cheap on Amazon. You can get these for about $6-7 a pair, as opposed to like $17 to $20 at Lowe's or Home Depot. So good value there. These drawer pulls, got like 10 drawer pulls for like $14. Very cheap. It's like a painted zinc, and it's a nice solid drawer handle. Gives you good purchase, low profile, smooth, so it's not going to get caught on anything. Just to show you a real quick and easy way to mount all these handles so that they're in the perfectly correct spot. I made about the simplest jig that you could possibly make, which is I took 2 scrap pieces of plywood, just put my square up here and tacked it in with some brad, so this is a perfect 90 degrees. And this would be like your typical drawer front that you want to mount those handles on. And so what I would do is I would measure across the front and get it right, find the center, true center, put a mark on it. Okay. I know that all these drawer fronts are 15 inches across, So I went ahead and measured 7.5 inches from this edge to the center here, and then 1.5 inches on either side, drilled a hole. And then I put a little tick mark here on the line those holes are on. So now it's just a simple matter of put this on the drawer front, line those tick marks up right there, hold it down, drill some holes, and it takes literally a couple seconds. And this is about the most stupid easy jig you can make, and that'll work fine. Yeah. Okay, fast forward a couple days. What we've done here is pretty much wrapped up most of the stuff we're going to do to this cabinet. We put all the drawers in, obviously. We finished that. That was pretty easy. Then I just used 2 coats of Danish oil on the entire cabinet. It's plywood and it's pretty thirsty, to be honest. Probably could have gone with a 3rd coat, to be honest. It's got the 2 coats on. It's protected. You could probably put a 3rd coat on later. Right now it's fine. I did just trim out the sides with that hickory or whatever it is. And we have the little control foot down in there for making sure it sits nice and flat. The levers are working good. Right now it's sitting down flat and level. And so one of the reasons I really developed or used this cam system with a push rod for the retractable casters is, obviously we needed the mobility, but, the other options that are out there I've seen, especially the ones you can get from Rockler, are you have to buy 4 separate casters that have like a foot action on it that you can actually raise and lower the casters, and it's actually a pretty nice product. Problem is, what it really does is it makes this whole cabinet, the footprint of this cabinet, much bigger, because it's going to stick out like 3 or 4 inches this way and 3 or 4 inches that way. And if you look around, this is a garage, right? So I got a workbench, I got more cabinets, I got stools. If I want to move this thing around, those things sticking out on the edge are a problem. They're going to bump into this, they're going to bump into that. It's a clearance issue. Having those like casters sticking out on the outside on all these things would just create havoc. On top of that, they're expensive. It might be like $20 a caster. I forget what it was. Don't quote me on that. But I know that I remember looking at buying 4 of them, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be a cheaper way to do this. So the design process is kind of like it's the fun, and it's, the building it's good too, but designing it and then executing it is also a lot of fun. So, but check it out. Check out Carl Holmgren, and good luck with your build. Have fun in your shop, and thanks for watching my video.